Welcome back. It is another Bruins Benders post-game live. It is Smitty, it is Connor, and the musical chairs on the Bruins Benders continues this evening for the Boston Bruins and the Anaheim Ducks, fresh off a Four Nations face-off break. And the Bruins, Boston Bruin tonight.
They did.
They took no time off.
They started the game like they were still on the break, or like they'd been playing all season. Same difference, really. Awful start. I think they were outshot 7-1 at one point. 6 and change minutes into the game. Middle part of the first, they were fine. They were okay. Had some chances even. Couldn't bury anything. And then the end of the first period, Bruins going to Bruin. You're going to give up goals in the last 2 minutes of a period. They've been doing it all year long. I think it's the 22nd time this year they've given up a goal in the last 2 minutes of a period, which is ridiculous.
Horrible.
And then they're chasing the game. They get a power play goal on a 5-on-3 in the second, and then they score one late that's waved off. And I tell you what, if that goaltender interference call had stood, I don't know if the building would have survived. I think the building would have been burned to the ground, and those referees would have been, sought after and killed in the streets of Boston.
Chased out of the building.
Chased out of the building, chased down the street, chased back to wherever they live. It would have been already stuff was thrown on the ice after they initially called the goalie interference and waved it off. So if that had stood, I can't imagine what it would have been like. Would have been a really bad scene. But the goal counts. Bruins get some chances in OT. Morgan Geekie specifically had 2 or 3 really, really good chances tonight. Had a great shot that Dostal made the save on, and then the Bruins Bruin. They, 2 guys go to the puck, they leave somebody wide open, and he scores. And that's been their MO all year long. They make dumb mistakes at dumb times, and it costs them goals.
Consistently inconsistent, as I think what we could tag that as.
Or consistently bad.
Fair. Consistently shitty.
Yeah.
We could go with that.
Sure.
But I think you made a great point in the first period, bringing up the box score of the game, just starting in the first. You go out of the first period, you're down 2-0. You're outshot 17-7 in the first period.
Yeah.
It's not great.
No. Awful. I mean, like the middle was fine there. They had like, maybe it was only one shift. They had one shift where they had like 3 or 4 decent chances. And they couldn't find the net. They couldn't put one in. But outside of that, like they didn't show up, and I'm not sure why. They should be desperate. They should be a desperate hockey team. They're 2 or 4 points out of a playoff spot right now with, a couple teams in front of them. So
after tonight's game, 1 point at the moment.
Yeah. Well, right. Yeah. So, but before the game, they were, 2 points out or whatever it was with a couple teams in front of them. Everybody lost. And you should have known that as you were playing the game, probably in between the second and third periods, somebody's probably saying, hey, everybody else lost. We can gain some ground here. But still not enough. I mean, it's just I hate to criticize effort, and maybe it's their system. And we've talked about this before, like it's meant to, not forecheck hard and fall back into a trap. But you watch guys go in on the forecheck and chase pucks down, and it's like 2 or 3 hard strides, and then they glide like the last, couple strides where they could really be forcing the play if they were going full out the whole time. And they just don't do it. The whole team doesn't do it. They just coast around most of the time.
Most of the time, yes. And you bring up the point of, hopefully somebody was in the locker room saying, hey, all these teams are losing. We have an opportunity. Well, after the first period, they outshot Anaheim 22-9 in the second and the third period combined. But then again, in overtime, guess what? They get the lead in the shots on goal. Again, whether it's 3-2, I know that's very slim pickings, but didn't last that long either.
No, and they just make bad plays at bad times. I don't think there's any other way to say it. And the hockey IQ, and I've talked about that before too, just isn't great. Like the play by Lohrei when they scored the first goal. Why are you going cross ice to make a hit on a guy and giving up a 2-on-1 when it's a 4-on-4? That's one of the dumbest pinches I've ever seen in my life, to go with the dumbest turnover I've ever seen in my life when he skated the puck out in front of his own net and the guy poked it in a wide open net off his stick. He's made two of the dumbest plays this season that I've ever seen by anyone ever. And he's, a defenseman that you're going to be counting on for your future.
Potentially.
Like, not if he doesn't clean that shit up. You're not. He's going to be a power play guy who can skate around, and he made some dazzling plays tonight. He had a couple of wrap chances where you were like, oh, wow, look at that. But then
tonight.
Yeah, when it comes to his own zone, he is a train wreck. He can't do anything right. The neutral zone, his own zone, it's awful. It's not even bad. It's worse than bad. It's awful. And I don't know if you can survive that. I don't know if you can have him out there all the time.
Well, the time on ice tonight says completely otherwise. With Charlie McAvoy out, with Hampus Lindholm out, they are making the obvious choice that Mason Lohrei is probably part of the future, because he played 22:57 tonight, second most on the team behind Zadorov at 25:18.
Yeah, I mean, look.
And to be fair, he had 2 assists. He was -2. He had 2 penalty minutes. He had 4 shots, 1 block, 1 giveaway, 1 takeaway.
Yeah, and the worst pinch in the history of recorded hockey, but that's not on the stat sheet.
That's not on the stat sheet.
No.
Well, I mean, you could argue that
they probably gave him the hit for that fucking terrible fucking play.
No, he got 0 hits. So
they
didn't even give him that bump.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm stand corrected.
Do you think that he watched the Charlie McAvoy pinch on Connor McDavid from the Four Nations? He's like, fuck it, I can do this too.
McAvoy didn't pinch on that play. He just got beat with speed.
No. McAvoy, when he pinched on Connor McDavid in the first USA-Canada game and just laid him out right on the side.
That when he stepped up and hit him. I thought you were talking about when McDavid split and the other defenseman had scored. I was like, he didn't pinch. He just got fucking beat because McDavid has all-world wheels. Yeah, I mean, maybe he's seeing that and thinking, I have to play more physically. That's not his game. It's probably will never be his game. Like we've talked about it earlier this year on on one of the pods or one of the post games where he has like 10 hits all year long. Like you're not Charlie McAvoy. You're not a hitter. You're not setting a tone physically. None of the defensemen are doing that. Really, with the exception of Zadorov, clearly. McAvoy and occasionally Peak, but like Wotherspoon's not really doing that. Like that's not Hampus Lindholm's game. That's not, Jordan Osterley's game, certainly. And it's not Mason Lohrei's game. So stop trying to be something you're not. Have good stick position. You're 1,000 feet tall. Have good stick position, be strong on it, and make good outlet passes. That's all you have to do.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Sound positionally, use your stick and make good fucking passes out of your zone. That's it. It's not that much, it's not rocket science. It's not that difficult.
It's not that difficult.
It's not. He could just play simpler and then once you get on the other side of center ice, let your offensive instincts take over. But on the back half in your own zone, you have to be much more sound, much more, risk averse. Like stop making stupid plays, risky plays that are going to put your team in a bad spot. It's dumb. And he should know better by now. I don't care how long he's been playing defense for. He's been playing in college. He's been playing, in the AHL and now the NHL, so that's got to improve. It's got to improve. And a point that I was going to make before you said that was, he is going to get more ice time now, and he's going to make mistakes. Hopefully, he learns from the mistakes. If they're going to give him the rope, stop making the same mistakes over and over again. Like, learn from some of these things and be better, and hopefully that will, help the team and him going forward.
Yeah, and he needs a new contract, so I guess if anybody's going to get a lot more time, he's the one that you want to see more from. Maybe they decide that this isn't what we want to do, and maybe he becomes somebody they move by the trade deadline or by the draft, what have you. A couple more things before we get to the fan comments. We talked in the text chat about kind of theorizing what tomorrow's press conference may be with Don Sweeney, and we have our thoughts and opinions about the defensemen. Looking at the defense core tonight, Mason Lohrei, Brandon Carlo, Parker Wotherspoon, Andrew Peak, Michael Callahan, Nikita Zadorov. Does that scream successful defense group to you?
No.
Me neither. I think that if we are right and tomorrow Don Sweeney comes out and says that Charlie McAvoy is done for the season and maybe Hampus Lindholm has had a setback and may be out for a few more weeks or the rest of the season, that's probably a wrap for this Boston Bruins 2024-2025.
Yeah, I think so. It's just, I mean, look, Callahan, as much as he's played pretty well, is an AHL guy, an unproven guy. I mean, maybe he'll prove himself, and he certainly could play third pair minutes on a decent team. He hasn't really hurt them. He's one of the few guys back there who hasn't hurt them, and he plays within himself. That's what I want some of these other guys to do. So he's fine, but he's for a championship caliber club, like, you could probably do better than that, I would say. But if he's your seventh, eighth guy, you're fine. You're fine with that if he's a injury replacement. But you need more from, and he's out, but you need more from the McAvoys. You need more from the Lindholms. You need, Carlo doesn't give you any point production. Lohrai's been a disaster in his own zone, even though he's giving you stuff offensively. And then Zadorov, he'll give you the hits, but he doesn't give you really anything offensively. So you're paying a lot of money to him and Carlo for nothing offensively. No production at all. And if they're not going to be shut down defensively, which Carlo hasn't been this year, and Zadorov has been, up and down, awful in the beginning, and then he's gotten better, but still, there's moments where he's, shaky or not what you're looking for. Chases a little too much.
Yeah.
So, they have some opportunities there to maybe move some guys out, like Carlo, and see if you can get in here a guy or two that can produce offensively. And I think they thought maybe Lohrei would be that guy, but he's so bad defensively that I don't know if they can rely on that going forward. I really don't. I'm kind of torn because I do like his offensive upside. I know he's young. I know he hasn't played a ton of NHL games. But man, that defensive zone is so bad. It's so bad that it's hard to say, yeah, put him out there. When the game's on the line, I can see why people are benching the guy. I mean, I can, because he just makes plays where you're like, wow, why on earth would he do that? Like, there's no reason in the world for that thought to even go through your head.
What do you think? What do you think the hockey IQ stat for him is?
On a 0 to
100? If you had to rank it 0 to 100, where would it be for you?
Like 10.
10? Fair. Trent Frederick is allegedly 85. So
Trent Frederick is not 85. I saw that thing, and I saw his compete at 90. If his compete was 90, he wouldn't have been skating around like he was at the fucking roller skating rink with the disco ball going for fucking a month and a half with zeros across the board. If his compete was that high, he would have fought somebody. He would have gotten assist just from being somewhere in front of the net. He would have got a goal from having it hit off his body and go in. Like, if he was competing, he would have produced at least a little bit during that stretch. So the compete thing at 90 is a fucking joke, an absolute joke.
Now, speaking of competing, I'm going to go to one of my favorite heels of the Boston Bruins, Mr. 8.25 million. 29 shots against this evening, 26 saves, 3 goals against, all at even strength, mind you.
Yeah.
An 897 save percentage. How did you feel about Swayman's first game back?
I can't fault him on any of the goals. None. The first goal was Lohrei's awful pinch. Wotherspoon didn't take the pass away, so they tic-tacked back and forth. And Zegras, as much as he's been maligned, is offensively talented. So back on a stick, top corners. I mean, there's nothing Swayman can do there. It's a cross crease and then a top corner. And then the other one, they leave the guy Vatrano wide open, going to the net, and Joonas makes a great, slap pass, kind of shot pass right onto his stick, and he just tips it in. Like, again, nothing Swayman can do on that. He's facing the shot. There's no one there to take Vatrano. He's wide open, scores. And then on the last one, shot, maybe you want him to control the rebound, but the rebound comes out. The Bruins are nowhere to be found, and the guy fires it into an open net. The guy that probably should have been covering him was trying to play fucking goalie instead of actually covering the man. He was in the net. So that's fucking cool. Awesome. Great job. So yeah, I can't fault Swayman on any of those. Would you like a miraculous save? Sure, I would. I would like a miraculous save for 8.25, but I still can't fault the guy. I mean, I think on any team, maybe not the Bruins because they probably wouldn't have executed the 2-on-1, but most teams would score those goals, all of them. Probably not the Bruins. The Bruins probably would have had 1 out of the 3, but other teams
Bruins couldn't score goals. Says, they can't score in a brothel with a fistful of hundreds.
No. So, that's what you have. You have, a Bruins team that doesn't have any offensive talent really, and struggling to score when they get their chances. Like Geekie had a breakaway chance denied. I mean, he did score later, but they had a few other really good chances denied, and just couldn't put it in. And it's been the story of the season all year long. Same thing. Can't score, can't defend, and it comes back to bite you.
And it fucking comes back to bite you.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, John. Now to the favorite part of the show, the fan comments. And Odyssey hops in back to the trenches, and boy, did it feel like the trenches in that first period. Matthew Curtis, how the fuck did Don Sweeney get the GM job for Team Canada? Great question.
That is a good question.
Answer that.
I'm sure they're feeling great about it because Canada. So I don't know how he got the job. Look, he didn't have to draft anybody. He didn't have to build the roster. All he had to do was do a fantasy draft of the greatest players in the game. So It's not that difficult. I could do it. Matt could do it. Connor could do it. Matthew Curtis could do it. I think anybody could really do it. I mean, if you're looking at around the best players in the league for Team Canada, it's not that difficult a choice. It really isn't.
It shouldn't be anyway.
No.
Dan Maynard hops in. Don't want to see them lose, but I also want to see us tank and hear them fire Sweeney chants. I heard a lot of boos in the first period in the TD Garden, and I definitely heard boos at the end of the game.
There were boos at the end of the first, for sure. There were boos during some of the power play in the second as well, when Lohrei almost let that guy score shorthanded because, again, can't defend in his own zone. And there were boos at the end, for sure. No fire Sweeneys. But, if they lose a few more here at home in the next few games, that's coming. It's coming
back.
Yeah.
Dan chimes in again. Feels for Pasta. Should have somehow been in the Four Nations. He would have killed it with top tier players by his side. Absolute waste of talent there. And he made it known.
Yeah, he wasn't real happy. They asked him about who he wanted to win the game. He's like, I don't care who wins.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he was not happy that he wasn't involved in it. And he took great pride in playing for Czechia in the World Championships, which they won. And the only reason that they didn't have a team and like Germany didn't have a team and is there's just not enough NHLers from those countries. And this was an NHL tournament. So I think if it's an IHF tournament, like the World Cup of Hockey, I think will be. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think it will be. There should be more teams, or they'll do one of those fake like Team Europe things, or like the Young Guns or some bullshit to get. I
have one of those Young Gun jerseys somewhere in one of my closets.
That team was exciting and fun. It really was.
And it would be awesome right now. Like, I feel like the players in that same age bracket now are probably even better than the group before, because half of those players, some of them just played for Team USA. I mean, Boldy and Faber would probably be a layup.
Yeah, Boldy. I mean, the Young Guns, Boldy, Faber, Bedard, Celebrini. Yeah, I mean, Logan Cooley out in Utah. I mean, there's some really young, talented guys in the league. And I think it would be a kind of a cool thing if they did something like that again. But we'll see what it ends up being. But they should have representation for all those guys. Like the fact that Ovechkin and Pastrnak and some of the real elite scorers in the league aren't in this tournament was a missed opportunity by the NHL, in my opinion.
Fair enough. Odyssey, geek stock through the roof. Mm-hmm. Please keep this up until the trade deadline. Well, in my opinion, there's a real fine line between you keep it up until the trade deadline and Don Sweeney's pants get so enlarged that he can't help himself but to sign you. And that is not what I want. So, lay off the gas just a little bit. Go to 60, not 65. Relax.
He's going to get an extension, isn't he? I think he is.
It feels like it.
Yeah, it really does.
The more and more that you feel this team sucks and can't score and has no offense,
right?
Don Sweeney's probably sitting there and like, fuck, I didn't want to sign this guy, but he's the only person who scores. And if I don't sign him,
no. You got that all wrong. It's not, fuck, I didn't want to sign this guy. It's the guy that I brought in that I thought if they were given more opportunity to would have a really good year and prove himself. I'll re-sign my guy. That's what's going to fucking happen. He's not like, oh no, I have to re-sign him. He's like, I can't wait to re-sign him. New career high in goals now, 18.
So you think he's going to spin this as we took the chance on him. We were right.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Mr. Harvard being right about a player. Oh yeah.
Smartest guy in the room.
Smartest guy in the fucking room. No one else signed Morgan Geekie. It was us. We did it. We should get all the credit. And Donnie's going to sign that guy to his fucking 20-year extension if he could, with his pen in one hand and his cock in the other. I mean, Jesus. He can't wait to sign that guy to a new deal. Cannot wait.
But how do you feel about that?
They shouldn't do it. They shouldn't do it. Not for big money. If he's, the number they threw around earlier on was like 3.25. I'm fine with that, but that's not what he's going to get. He's going to get much more than that, and they shouldn't give it to him. Shouldn't be them. He has 18 goals. Okay, 18. It's not like he has 30.
No.
So, yeah, does he deserve a raise? Absolutely. Has he been good? Absolutely. Since they put him with Pastrnak, he's been really good. He has been. But I'm not giving him a huge long-term contract when there's other guys out there that can produce points and have consistently done it. I'm not. And
there's going to be a lot of talent in this offseason.
Yeah.
Nobody signs contracts between now and then.
Right. So, like in my opinion, you don't give Geekie that long-term, deal. You don't. even though
until Mitch Marner has a contract, until Mikko Rantanen has a contract. Oh, wait, I'm Don Sweeney. I'm going to go sign my bottom 6 plus 2 AHLers and a 7th defenseman before I sign my star goaltender. Smartest guy in the room.
Yeah, like I said, I think he does the whole team building thing backwards, and I don't get it, and I never will. I never will understand how he builds rosters, and I don't think he should be in charge of this one anymore.
Fair enough. I think a lot of people agree with you. Dan Maynard, I know I said I want them to lose and miss the playoff, but it still hurts to see them lose. That overtime was way too stressful.
I agree with Dan. I do. I want them to lose too, and I need them to miss the playoffs because I think that's the only way you'll see real change here. But it does still hurt to see them lose. I still root for them to win, even though I know I shouldn't, and I want them to lose, and I want the team to miss the playoffs. Look, they're going to miss the playoffs. They only have like a 15% chance going in to this game. It's probably slightly worse now. So they're going to miss. It's not a question of that. It's a question of if they're smart enough to know they're going to miss and start dealing pieces off to help start the rebuild now rather than waiting until the offseason and having guys walk for nothing. So we'll see if they're smart enough to do it. I don't think they are. And I've said it all along. I don't think you'll see a lot of changes. They may trade one guy, maybe, but I don't think so. I think they're going to hang on until the trade deadline because they'll be hanging around kind of in it, kind of not. And then it'll be too late. And then there you go.
Curtains.
Yep.
Joe Bandara. This team is so pathetic and boring to watch, especially after the Four Nations games. And Joe brings up a fantastic point that a lot of us true hockey fans kind of realized throughout this tournament. Is that the Four Nations brought a buckload, sorry, John, of eyes to these tournament games and NHL players. But when the games switch back to your last 30 regular season games, it wasn't going to compare to what we just watched for the last 2 weeks. And I think halfway through tonight's game, I was at that point where I was like, man, here we are again. This sucks. Like, I really enjoyed watching the hockey for the last 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden we were watching the North Shore Islanders, the Boston Bruins, playing hockey again. Like,
well,
fuck.
Part of that problem is not the league. It's the team that we're rooting for and watching. That's what the problem is.
Fair. But overall, no matter what team you're going to watch, the games are going to be as exciting. But it definitely doesn't help that we're watching a piss poor team at the moment. That's
what I'm saying. Yes, all the games in comparison aren't going to live up to, some of those games during the Four Nations, because it was great hockey with great players making great plays. And now you have, mediocre to bad players making bad plays. So that's what you get when you watch the Bruins. And, there's some other teams that, aren't that bad. Like the Washington-Pittsburgh game this afternoon, Pittsburgh was hanging in. Yeah, Crosby does pretty well, but then, Washington rattles off like 4 or 5 in a row in no time. So, there's some good teams. Like Washington's a good team. Minnesota had a big comeback against Detroit.
I watched part of that game earlier.
Yeah. Which was cool. Brock Faber, what a stud, man. Goes from playing 28 and change against Canada in the finals on Thursday to playing 30-30 or whatever it was, or 30-50 tonight against
that's over half the game, baby.
Yeah, against Detroit 2 days later. That's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And he's only fucking 22. He's going to be a rock for them for a long time. He
is turning out to be what everybody hoped Charlie McAvoy would be for the Boston Bruins. And I don't think Charlie McAvoy ever took that extra step. Do you agree?
Offensively, I think he's probably similar to McAvoy. Defensively, he's better. Defensively, he's better than McAvoy is, I feel like. And he plays Maybe not with the same. He's not going to deliver some of the big hits that McAvoy will, but he's better positionally, and he's he's a shutdown guy. He played against a lot of the Canada's best players and held them off the board while he was out there. So,
because Charlie McAvoy, everybody talked about him coming into the league, and they're like, he's going to compete for Norris trophies.
Yeah,
and right now, a few years into his career, I don't fucking see that happening anytime soon.
No, he went the wrong way. He went the wrong way. Like, he was trending that way early on because he was points wise, he was getting a little better. He was playing really well defensively. And then they made the coaching change to Montgomery, and then his defense went down the shitter. And he hasn't found it. He hasn't found it yet. His best game in a while was that game Saturday where he was hurt, where he laid a couple of big hits on McDavid and a couple of hits on Crosby, and his physicality, I think, really changed the tone of that game on Saturday for USA. On whatever it was,
the first game.
Yeah, the first game for USA on, what was it, Thursday or whatever?
Yes.
Last Thursday.
Yep. Last Thursday.
Yeah. So, if he can play like that for the Bruins, that's kind of the guy you're looking for. But, I don't know if you can expect that. Like we've talked about it a little bit, like the physicality like that, you can't last doing that for 82 games. You can't sustain that over the course of an entire season. You just break apart because there's too many collisions, too many hits. And the kind of minutes that he plays, he just wouldn't be able to sustain it or survive it, I don't think. But if he was closer to that, that's what the Bruins want. That's what they paid for. That's what they were hoping to get, along with some offense, which, is kind of, I won't say regressed, but kind of leveled off at a point where, you would hope that it would be a little bit better than it's been.
Fair. Aussie Bruin chimes in. Surely
Sweens
has seen enough now and pulls the trigger. And mind you, how are you not fucking entertained by that? Come on.
I am entertained by it, and I'm the one who said it initially. So, yeah. He should be willing to pull the trigger. He should have been willing to pull the trigger like a couple weeks ago when everybody else started pulling the trigger. Their playoff odds are not good. Like, have a very, very low chance of making it in the playoffs. And they have to
get smaller and smaller.
Yeah, they have to see that, right? They have to, don't they? Don't they have to, like, there's somebody out there, like, they have a statistic department, right? Analytics.
Don Sweeney feels like the guy who's getting a 13, a 14, a 15, or a 16, and he's hitting no matter what.
Yeah.
Okay. He's just hit. And that's what his philosophy is he is riding this motherfucker out.
Can we buy that guy a book on blackjack or poker so that he realizes what the odds are, and then he can fucking settle down and make some goddamn moves to improve this team for the future?
But let me ask you this. Let me be devil's advocate here for the first time.
Okay.
Do you think that it is so hard for him to finally move a couple pieces because they haven't legitimately sold any pieces in probably over a decade? Just about a decade, actually.
Yeah, because he's best friends with all of them now. Sweens! Best friends with all those fucking guys. It's like, I can't trade away my buddy. Like, you're the general manager of the goddamn hockey club. Like, make a hockey trade. That's why I called him a sackless goof, because he is. Make a trade. Make a trade to make your team better. Maybe not in the short term, but in the long term. It will help your team. So do it. Don't lose guys for nothing. It's dumb. And he's Harvard educated. So use the fucking Harvard education. Sorry, John. And make a goddamn hockey trade. Please, for the love of fucking Christ, please.
Say your prayers, ladies and gentlemen, to whoever you pray to, for Don Sweeney to make a fucking trade. Cab chimes in. I think the Bruins have overachieved this year. The effort is there. They just lack the talent. And as Don Sweeney alluded earlier this season, this is an incomplete roster, ladies and gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
He's just not going to tell you when he's going to complete it. That's the mystery.
It is.
Zach Case.
You know what, though? I would just want to answer, Cab. I agree. I think they have overachieved because there's no way this team, with what they've done statistically, should be where they are in the standings. So somehow, some way, they found a way to kind of hang in when they shouldn't be anywhere close to where they are right now with their goal differential and getting blown out by teams. Their power play's been awful. The penalty kill's been awful. The goaltending's been up and down. They haven't been able to score. Like, with all that going against them, everybody's having bad years. Like, there's like a couple guys on the team that are having better years than they've had previously. Everybody else is having worse years. Through all that, they've somehow managed to hang around. So he's right, or she's right. They've hung around and overachieved somehow. Even though everybody's playing worse, they've overachieved because they're still in this
by some of their conference
miraculous reason.
It's just as shitty. Like,
True.
Just quickly looking at just the points from the Eastern Conference to the Western Conference. The Western Conference is a harder divisions conference setup.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
In the playoffs right now than the East. And the Bruins are just dining out on mediocrity and hoping that something works out in their favor. And as Zach Heist said, after that first period, I could have punched someone. And I agree. I was booing at my TV as well. This team.
Yeah, I mean, just like I'm watching it and then it's like shot. And then Bruins get Lohrei wraparound chance and then shot. It's like, we're doing this thing again where we're just going to let the other team have all the shots. We're going to take one shot or two shots in the period. And they did basically outshot 17-7. I don't know why this team can't start on time, but they haven't been able to for years. It's not a this year problem. It's been going back a few years. And they just can't do it. Even when they were really good, on some of those teams, when Montgomery, they would start bad, but then they would battle back and win late. They'd find a way to win late. They were getting really good goaltending, which helped. And they're not getting that now. So I guess that might be part of it, but it just blows my mind that, it ends up like this. It really does.
Jumping around here, Tyler Ralston. This is a question, not a suggestion, but is Brad Marchand really helping us?
Ooh, that is a good question.
I thought so. So I skipped directly to that one.
Yeah. I mean, he is, because I think he does more to help the team than other guys that are floating around out there. And he's produced points. I think he's still second on the team in scoring, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
So he hasn't had the same kind of years that you have come to expect from him. But he was one of the best left wings in the league there for, a 4 or 5 year stretch. So you can't expect that, especially with a guy who's middle-aged now in hockey years anyways. He's 35 or whatever, 36 maybe.
I think he's 36.
Yeah, he's 36. He's coming off 3 surgeries. Like, he's played a lot of hockey, and he's not the biggest guy. So, that's eventually going to catch up with you. Can he still be an effective player? Yes. If he's on a really good team, will he be better than he's playing now? Yes. Like, if he goes to Colorado and plays with McKinnon and, whomever, he'll be fine. You'll see. He'll be fine. He'll be rejuvenated because he won't have to deal with all these assholes that half-ass it half the time. And he'll be rejuvenated and he'll be very good for them. He kills penalties. He does a lot of the little things. He battles, he wins pucks for a small guy. He does a lot of the dirty work.
He's growing into a third line player.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's more of a second, third line guy now on a really good team. But tell you, if I had a really good team and I could play Brad Marchand on my second or third line, I would be jumping at the chance to get a guy like him. 100%.
And seeing him crash into the boards tonight and struggle to get up and get back to the bench, all I could think of was, oh no, there goes my beloved alleged first round pick at the trade deadline. Oh no.
Yeah, I wonder if it was the concussion spotter. Like, I wonder if he was, because he sat on the bench at first and they didn't send him down the tunnel. I wonder if like the upstairs concussion spotter was like, have him go into the locker room and get tested. I bet you that's what it was.
But it didn't seem like he was back there long enough that it would make me feel like it was the concussion spotter. Because usually they're back there for quite a bit of time. And he was back on the ice pretty quick.
Yeah, it was like, usually it's like, what, 10 minutes or something?
10 to 15.
Maybe it wasn't that.
Running time, but not game time.
Yeah. So,
Curtis,
go ahead.
The fact that nothing has happened since Jim Montgomery's firing is absolutely mind-blowing. And I concur, Matthew. There was a slight bump from the Joe Sacco era, and you won, I think, maybe 2-3 games tops right away. And it has been a slow downroll spiral ever since. It seems like we win a game, lose 2 or 3. You win a game, you lose 2 or 3. And that's not going to be a good recipe for the playoffs.
No, that's not getting you there. It's not. And they were playing bad teams too, right after Sacco got the job. When Montgomery got fired, they played like 3 or 4 bad teams in a row, and won some games there against bad teams, which they should have done. But they've since, gone back to what it's been all year long, which is a team that's not very good. And you can coach them all you want when you don't have enough talent offensively, and you're not getting saves, and your defense is making boneheaded mistakes. Then you could say, hey, Mason, don't take the puck right out in front of your net when the goalie's not there. He should listen to that, or know better. But he did it anyway. That's not on the coach, as So, I'm sure they don't coach him to cross the ice completely and try to lay a hit in the neutral zone to give up a 3-on-1. That's probably not a coaching point. So, those things are on the players. And if you have bad players or players with bad hockey IQ making bad decisions, it doesn't matter who the coach is. It's a bad team. And there you have it.
Yeah, and I think Bruins 1970 on the Sacco aspect of things is he's not a head coach. We all see that and understand that. And this was a debate that we had going back to when he was hired, and they had that slight bump of good play. Mm-hmm. And we kind of were saying to ourselves, well, where's the contract for him? Where is kind of dubbing him as the head coach? And my feeling on it all along was he was never going to be, and they were going to just hang on to him until the end of the season and kick his ass out the door with half the coaching staff and a few of the players and completely reboot the team. And I feel like that is becoming more and more and more solidified in my brain as the season goes on.
I hope you're right. I just... Look, I don't think he's going to be back. I said at the time that I thought if he got them into the playoffs, he might be back. And I still believe that, just because they like to promote from within. They like to hire their own guys, all that bullshit that they do. And I still believe that if they make the playoffs, he might stay, which I can't believe, but he might stay. And as far as like gassing players and until I see them do it, I just can't believe that it'll happen, because they've never done it really. They never really have gone a full retool, rebuild route. They've never really sold. So until they actually start selling pieces, I can't buy it, because I think he's going to hold on for dear life to every single ounce of percentage point of making the playoffs until it reads 0. And, I feel like in my bones that's what he's going to do. He's going to wait and, every last possible second until they're not eligible for the playoffs before he wants to move anybody.
So Dan Maynard gets a little controversial here, and he may or may not cop a beating. Hopefully not from a local kangaroo, but he's learning to love Nikita Zadorov. He's not the best, but when he's used properly, he does his thing, and he's a weapon. Agree or disagree?
I would
162 penalty minutes, Nikita Zadorov.
I would agree. I would agree with that. I would agree with Dan.
Wow. Coming from Smitty, who I'm sure most of you know has cussed immensely at this screen because of Nikita Zadorov. That is progress.
Yeah. So look, I thought he was bad early on. I thought he kind of chased too much. I thought he got away from. He still does things that drive me nuts. He's a little too casual with the puck, certainly. But he does have his moments. Now, I'd like to see some of those moments turn into production, which they haven't yet. But it's possible it could get there. If he has a little bit better luck or he's playing with better players or whatever the case may be. He's certainly laying the hits. He's intimidating physically. Like he shoved Frank Toronto today after and
then took the bang bang from Toronto right after.
Like gave him 2 hard cross checks and he didn't move. He just stood there and he kind of laughed at him.
And then Vetrano was basically like, all right, well,
Vetrano was like, all right, I'm skating away. And then there was another play where somebody he had the puck along the boards and he was waiting for the guy to come and holding the puck. And the guy tried to run him over kind of from behind. And Zadorov just stood there. And it was like the guy hit a tree and bounced off and fell to the ice. He's
massive.
He really is. He really is. And I feel like his play, when they finally do make the playoffs, will translate. Because he'll be able to get away with a little bit more in the front of the net. He'll be able to be a little bit nastier than he can be in the regular season. Some of those penalty minutes and stuff that are called in the regular season won't get called in the playoffs. And he'll be a value add positively. Do I wish his contract was different? 100%. I do. I think they were bidding against.
Look at some of his old tape for like his classic hits.
Oh yeah,
he's a fucking murder machine, and I haven't seen that yet. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I feel like the game is going in an opposite direction overall, but some of those open ice hits and just absolute bone crushing board hits that are like borderline fucking hurting people. Okay.
Oh yeah, sure.
And I really haven't seen any of that. And I feel like this Bruins team could benefit from some of that when basically, and this is actually a comment. I'm sorry for whoever said this. I apologize if you mention your name here. I'll give you your credit. But somebody in the comment section tonight said that the Bruins roster is really where players get neutered after they mentioned seeing Charlie McAvoy in the Four Nations playoff and how he played. We've seen how Trent Frederick used to play.
Yep.
And I saw that comment, and for whatever reason, I didn't pull it up, but I said, fuck, that person's right.
Absolutely.
Like, 100% their players. Like, they're a bunch of
right.
fucking pussies.
Yeah. I said it with Garnet Hathaway too. Like they don't want you to play
like a scumbag.
Right. They want you to play, professional Bruins hockey. That doesn't do, like, being nice guys to the guys on the other team doesn't get you anywhere. Just ask fucking Sam Bennett. Ask Brad Marchand.
To big, bad Bruins.
I know. So, like, I 100% agree with that. And they could use more of that from Zadorov. And I think part of it is the system they play. The defense isn't really allowed to step up on guys at the blue line or in the neutral zone unless there's a forward back for support or another defenseman back for support that can get to the puck if some reason the puck gets by you after you destroy whoever was carrying the puck. So,
as Mick says, we got big bad Bruins. They're large and they suck.
Yeah. It's not the big bad Bruins. It's the big and bad Bruins. That's what it is.
I couldn't help myself when I saw that one. I had to chuckle a little bit.
100% true.
The Cam Show feels like Brandon Carlo has the skills of a guy who could play in the NHL 15 years ago, but isn't physical enough to play in that league. That's a fair assessment.
Yeah. He has never been a real physical defenseman. I think when he plays physically, he's better, but that's never really been his game. And I think not that the Bruins neutered the physicality out of him, but they never really said, "Hey, Brando, we want you to be more physical."
They don't encourage it at all.
They don't. No, it's like stick position. Make sure your stick's in the right spot. Make sure you're positionally sound. We're going to play this in our own zone. Look, if it goes above the dot, don't chase up there, And so they kind of have a style they want their guys to play and try to get away from, the big physical hits that'll take you out of position or, whatever the case may be. And I don't love that. I don't love that style. I think if you were playing a big physical style and you were hitting guys, throughout the course of a game, it wears people down. And then maybe they make a mistake that you can capitalize on. But the Bruins don't seem to want to play that way. And it's frustrating, I'm sure, for the majority of fans out there, because they, especially the older fans, are used to the big bad Bruins. They're used to guys punishing people and fighting people and killing people and, all of that. And that's what I grew up on too. So that's kind of what I would like to see, especially from my defensemen. So the fact that Carlo doesn't do that, I've learned to accept it. And when he's on and he's right, he's as good as a shutdown defenseman as there is in the league. But he hasn't been right now this year at all. Last year, he was fine. He hasn't been good in a few years as far as that. And he doesn't give you any offense. So what is he giving you if he's not doing, the shutdown thing? So I think he's a guy that you would, consider moving, and if you could trade him, he has a really attractive contract. And maybe he'd be rejuvenated somewhere else and you get something decent for him because he's a big kid. He can skate. He has the tools. He just doesn't use the tools, really.
Yeah. Quick update from the Bruins. Practice tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. General Manager Don Sweeney and select players available to the media following practice. So that will be what we're all waiting for tomorrow morning. Don't get stuck at church. Tyler Ralston, how many games do you guys think we actually have until we've dropped ourselves out of the playoff run?
Well, they have a couple more at home.
I think we got 6 more to the deadline.
Yeah, 6 more to the deadline, but a couple more at home, and they play pretty well at home. So if they win those, even though I think they're against good teams,
they are.
They'll hang around.
The Maple Leafs, the Rangers, it's the Maple Leafs, the Islanders, then Pittsburgh and Minnesota. So you could beat the Islanders in Pittsburgh. Those are winnable games.
Yeah, absolutely. So they'll hang around for a bit, but that's what I'm afraid of. Tyler, really.
Middling.
Yeah. You say you go, 3-4 in this little stretch here, from the break of the Four Nations to the trade deadline, you're a little under 500, but you're probably still hanging in there because the rest of the East sucks. And so is he gonna sell pieces off if you're still, 2 points out or 4 points out? Probably not. He probably won't. He'll probably buy like a fucking jackass. So I don't know if you can call them out of it, or he'll think they're out of it until their percent to make the playoffs is 0, which
there's always going to be that chance, right?
I know. And so I feel like he'll hold on to that for as long as he possibly can, and probably cost the Bruins some assets and some picks and players, because he will be unwilling to make a move to try to improve the team, or improve the team for the future.
Now, Savoie Cross has his hopes and prayers for tomorrow, and that is Don Sweeney will announce his resignation tomorrow at the press conference. Probably a fat chance, but hey, we appreciate the prayers and the creativity. Michigan Mike chimes in. Elliot Friedman tonight on CBC mentioned that the Carolina Hurricanes have offered forward Mikko Rantanen a contract totaling 9 figures, and his camp is tossing that around. So for those of you who suck at math, that's over $100 million in a contract.
Yeah. And in an 8-year deal, right? 8's the most they can do.
8 would be the most that they can do.
So yeah, you're talking a lot of money. And he was blindsided by the trade. I think I heard, some reports. So he's kind of weighing if he wants to, what he wants to do. I think, I don't know. It's an interesting position for him to be in because he was traded. He didn't get to really pick where he went. He loved it in Colorado. So now does he test free agency so that he can pick where he goes? I think he may. Mm-hmm. And Carolina.
That would be my feeling, right? Like if I already got traded and I got booted out of where I maybe wanted to be, we don't know. He didn't sign the extension there. So they weren't that close, obviously. But if I get moved somewhere else and I'm not really loving it there, and they offered me, we'll just assume that it's $100 million, right? And that's $12.5 million per year over an 8-year contract.
Yeah.
He allegedly wanted 14.5.
Yeah.
So why not? The cap is going up. Someone is going to give you 14.5. Guaranteed. Someone is going to give you that. Why sign with a team?
Yeah, I agree. I think he's probably going to test free agency unless, something miraculous happens in Carolina and they,
maybe they go on a hot run, win the Stanley Cup or something.
Yeah, I mean, something like that. And he wants to be a part of it, but I don't know. He doesn't seem to have the chemistry with Sebastian Aho yet. So maybe that plays a role into it. He hasn't really there's very few Nathan McKinnons out there. So, it makes playing with other guys, seem a little less, a little lesser than. So, maybe he's saying, wow, the grass isn't always greener. Maybe I don't sign and I sign for the deal that Colorado was offering me the first time. Or, so we can come to some agreement where I get a little bit more, but maybe not the 14.5. And he goes back to Colorado and he's happy there. I mean, I could see that happening. I really could. Because he really seemed, kind of thrown by the trade, and playing with McKinnon and Makar every night makes producing points a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah, that's a giveaway. I mean, it's better than playing with Nikita Zadorov, Waterspoon, Peak.
It's better than playing. Yeah, it's better than playing with Carlo and Elias Lindholm.
Yeah. So speaking of Brandon Carlo, Bruins Meat brings us up here. And since it's the end of the night, let's have some fun. For everybody in the chat, you put in the chat where you want to see Brandon Carlo go and your reasonable return. We're not playing NHL 24, people. Reasonable returns. But Bruins Meat, when we've talked about this player before, trade Brandon Carlo to the New Jersey Devils to see if you can get Simon Nemec in return. Because New Jersey has been shopping him. He played a season or two, I believe, on their roster and has been kind of buried in the AHL. And after signings they made last season, he's kind of out of a spot to grow into.
Yeah, he's been playing. He played tonight, I believe, with Luke Hughes on the third pair. And the coach was asked about the two of them together. Mm-hmm. And he said, not good. So I think he kind of wanted more responsibility, kind of like Juracek did, and
he was a -1 tonight, Simon Nemec.
Yeah, so
he played 12 minutes and 13 seconds as a defenseman, and that was 6 minutes less than the next defenseman on the list.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Glaring.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not going to get put out there as a defenseman, that should throw some flags up. But he does have potential, certainly. And would I trade him for Brandon Carlo right now? Maybe. If they want to throw something else in there too, you want to throw Nemec and a pick? Sure. Let's get after it.
Yeah, sure. Why not? I mean, the Bruins need to get younger. Last one left throws in a fun one. Jacob Trouba for Brandon Carlo. Who says no?
I don't know if anybody says no.
Fair enough.
I kind of like that. I mean,
that feels like a weird trade.
Trouba's contract kind of sucks. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But if Anaheim was willing to eat some of that money to even the money out a little bit, you know, Carlo's only getting 4-1, Trouba's getting 8 something, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if they were willing to eat a couple million, so you're paying 6 for Trouba and they're paying 6 for Carlo, yeah, sign me up. I'm in. Let's do it.
Zach Heiss makes a very good suggestion here, or kind of reasoning. Vancouver gave up a first-round pick for Marcus Pettersson of the Pittsburgh Penguins, who is a significantly lesser defenseman than Brandon Carlo. Tried to make sure my grammar was decent there. Kind of rambled on that one, but he makes a good point. You have to think that if Marcus Pettersson can get a first-round pick, Brandon Carlo has to get a first-round pick, especially with the contract he has.
I don't know. I think Pettersson produces more offense. I could be wrong about that, but I think he does. I think he's more offensively gifted than Carlo is.
Talk amongst yourself for like 2 seconds, and
I'll keep talking about it. So I think, I think Carlo just doesn't produce enough offensively to warrant that.
Pettersson's got 18 points in 51 games this season.
What's Carlo have? Like 6?
And
7?
Brandon Carlo has 9.
Yeah.
Half.
So, and that's Carlo's game. Like, you're just not getting that from Carlo. You just won't.
Carlo's a +3. Pettersson is a -3. So
yeah,
definitely not defensive at all by the looks of it on that end.
But he's also younger too, I believe. Pettersson.
He is 28 and Carlo is 28. They are the same age.
All right. So, I don't know. I'm not sure a team would give up a first for him just because of the lack of offense.
But a right D
shot thing does matter.
A right D at $4.1 million for this season and another one has a lot of value in my opinion.
You're right about that. I was going to say you're right about that. The 4.1 and the right shot and an additional year all play into it. So yeah, you might be able to. And I think if you could, you should do it and run to the league office to throw in the paperwork.
You probably should.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think that probably wraps it up for us here. But do you want to give a quick merch plug to the beautiful people out there?
Yeah, I think everybody should buy our merch. We have Boston hockey merch. We have Benders merch. We have merch for actually all the teams. We have T-shirts for all the teams. You can go right onto the ITR website. You get 20% off using the code SorryJohn. If you buy, there it is right there. You can use that QR code if you want. Or you can just go to the website and use the code SorryJohn, and we'll get you 20% off. There's shirts. There's the poor man's Mason Lohrei right there wearing the Get Fucking Bench shirt. Sorry, John. That fancy logo looking good on his back. But yeah, he's a poor man's Mason Lohrei. And maybe with a little mixture of Jack Eichel thrown in, possibly. So buy some merch from our Eichel and Lohrei models there.
And that does it for us tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And as always, go Bruins.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.